Hey guys, Meg here, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things self-development, mind-body connection, and real effective habit change. Today, I want to talk about the details of why, from a brain science perspective, your motivation feels like it is always fleeting. I really wasn't feeling motivated to film this video today, but I decided that it would be kind of ironic if I didn't. When it comes to motivation itself, the reason it doesn't seem to stick around is actually stupid simple, but somehow as a collective, we seem to see it as this mystery, right? Why am I going back and forth? Why is it not sticking around? How do I put structures in place to keep myself motivated when in fact those structures never end up being very strong because we're doing it from the wrong place? Most of the structures that we put in place to keep ourselves motivated are actually part of the reason that it is fleeting. I want to start by saying that there is a process that precedes any time we take action. There is a thought process that goes on in our minds before we decide to take action towards any kind of goal or desire that we want. And this is also the process by which we decide what our desires even are. There are 5 main steps to this process. Step 1. We see and notice and perceive of variation around us. This world and this universe is full of variation. There are so many different things that you can have, so many ways that you can live, so many ways that we can demonstrate what our preferences are based on what we choose to include and build into our lives. So the first step is that we are tuning in all the time and we are deciding and defining our preferences based on what we see is available to us. And so step number 2 is that we pick and choose the pieces of that variation that we are attracted to. We know what kind of body we want to build in the gym. We know what kind of house we want. We know what kind of job we want to have. We know what kind of area we want to live in. We have preferences on the ways that our partners will look and feel and behave. Some of these preferences are built more consciously and have a tendency to change over time, but a lot of them are built in as predisposition from an unconscious level and evolve over time based on our experiences, which we learn from in terms of what we don't want again and what we would rather have instead. And now the third step is really important. The third step is where we notice and we detect a contrast between where we are and what we have now and this thing that we prefer, this desire that we have. And this step number 3 is the point at which we define it as a desire. We define something as a desire when we see a contrast between where we are and our preference. We realize that this is something that we want because we don't have it now. Now, the 4th step is super interesting because it goes one of 2 ways based on our predisposed and locked in unconscious belief system, which I talk about in a ton of other videos. The 2 steps that can happen at this point, both of which are emotional responses which lead to action or lack thereof. The first one, when we see something that someone has that we don't, something that we wish we could have, something that we want, we can go the route of feeling jealous and resentful. Now, when these emotions pop up, that is an indication that you do not have a faithful belief system in the fact that that is a possibility for you. If you feel jealous, you don't believe that you can have it. You don't believe that it can be yours. So if this is a desire that you've decided that you want, you're not even going to begin to take action, let alone even worry about maintaining the motivation to take that action until you have on some level built enough of a belief system in the possibility of this even being a reality for you. So if you're feeling those feelings, first and foremost, you've got to work on the belief system. The second response emotionally is to be inspired. When you see what someone has that you don't and you feel inspired, what you are saying unconsciously is, if they can do it, so can I. So you have enough of a belief system backing up the fact that you think chemically, emotionally, based on conditioning, based on experience, that could be a possibility for you. And this is what leads us into action. This is what leads us into the planning phase of what we are going to do to acquire this thing that we have defined that we want. This, of course, leads us to step number 5, which is creating a plan of action and beginning to implement it. So if you see someone who inspires you, they have the body that you want, and you see what they're doing, maybe you create some kind of gym plan and you start going to the gym. Maybe you have financial goals and you're creating a spreadsheet with all of those financial goals laid out and all of the things that you can do to encourage more income to come in. Maybe you're looking at house listings for your dream home and you're trying to create into your reality those things that you want. And this is the part of the process that we all have questions about. Because as soon as we start to take action, or we feel that we have intentions towards taking action, there are usually 3 processes for most humans across the board that can and will trip us up at some or many points of the process. Those 3 patterns are: number 1, procrastination. So you've gone to step 5, you believe enough that this can be a reality for you, and you're setting a plan in motion, but you're not able to take action. You're not able to start. You're finding other things to do, you're pushing it off. You might not have enough belief in it, but you did have enough of a belief to start making a plan, so much so that you're able to identify what you aren't doing. The second pattern is self-sabotage. This is when we shoot ourselves in the foot pretty early on in the process. So not only have we made a plan, not only do we have enough belief in the fact that this desire can be ours, but we've started to take action. However, pretty early on in the process, we haven't gotten too far yet, we self-sabotage. We stop after we've hardly begun. And maybe we do this over and over and over again, and it's like we start, we can't continue, and then we're like, oh my God, I'm so dissatisfied with where I am, I'm gonna start again. And that leads us into number 3, which is the yo-yo back and forth. You get to a certain point, you might even be able to taste success, you might even be all the way at what you've defined as success, but no matter how hard you try, you can't keep it around consistently. You're making the money and you're losing the money. You're losing the weight and you're gaining it back, right? You're getting into that happy relationship and you are sabotaging it every time, or finding that something about it isn't right. All 3 of these examples, being procrastination, self-sabotage, and yo-yoing back and forth, are examples of different levels of losing motivation, not being able to continue, or in some cases, even to begin. And now this brings us to the big overarching question that you will see in any business group, any fitness group, any make more money group, any community, any conversation with any human on the face of the earth is: how do I stay more motivated? How do I maintain motivation? How do I make this a part of my life long term without feeling like it's on and off? And the simple answer is, of course, that the driving force behind motivation is moving in the direction of what you want. The driving force is towards where you are going. What most of us do when we find motivation is we find motivation by what we are dissatisfied with. We find motivation based on what we are trying to get away from. And this I refer to as away from motivation. We want to go to the gym because we want to lose the weight. We want to get out of the current state that we're in with our bodies. We want to make more money because we want to get out of debt. We want to get out of our current situation with money. We want to have that new partner who makes us feel so happy and emotionally fulfilled because we don't want to be in this shitty emotional space that we're in right now. And the problem with that is that when you are pushing yourself towards what you want by pushing what you don't want away, you are still facing towards what you don't want. All you can see is what you don't want. All you can visualize is what you don't want. All you can think about is what you don't want. And we know how important the direction of our thoughts is. So the paradox here, based on the 5 steps that we identified at the beginning of this video, is that we have to identify what we don't have, what we don't want, or what we are lacking in order to identify what we want, what we desire, what we wish would change. That's the law of relativity. You have to identify one in order to identify the other, because we are always defining one relative to the other. So part of the process includes, what do I see that's possible that I don't have? But we fall into the trap of dwelling on the contrast rather than putting ourselves into the situation of what we're going to do in that new reality. Now, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but the reason that motivation seems like such a universal struggle across humankind is not the mystery that we make it out to be. The reason that we have a tendency to focus more on what we are lacking than what we have or what we are moving towards is because the unconscious mind is wired first and foremost for survival. This means that the unconscious mind is always more focused on what is missing and what is lacking, because that is a compromise to our survival. If we are lacking something like food or water or anything else, that is first on our radar to think and focus on because we want to keep ourselves alive. Now, the problem with that is now we have, as humans, this more highly evolved separation between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, which gives us the ability in the conscious mind to identify all of these higher desires beyond survival, which are now clashing with this importance on survival in the unconscious mind. So though all we want to do is focus on where we're going and focus on the things that are good and focus on gratitude, it is that 90% of your brain functioning under the unconscious mind that says, oh, I have to focus on what's negative. Oh, it's easier to focus on what's lacking. Sometimes it's really easy to take things for granted and lose sight of gratitude because that is a survival instinct. And for this reason, we are much more prone to finding motivation out of what we are lacking, what is going wrong, or what we are moving away from. So what exactly is the problem with away from motivation, and how does it keep us from being consistent in our action? On an unconscious level, away from motivation is going to create a dependency on that which you do not want. For example, if I want to continue to be motivated to go to the gym in order to lose weight, as long as I see evidence of myself starting to lose weight, I am going to create a pattern of self-sabotage, which puts me right back where I was, because your unconscious mind listens only to the specificity of your thoughts, and what you told your unconscious mind was, I am going to the gym in order to lose the weight, which means I need the weight in order to have the motivation to go to the gym. So we yo-yo back and forth because the only way that we know how to take action is with the presence of what we don't want. And so we continue to re-attract into our experience the presence of what we don't want. Another really good example is, I want to make more money so I can get out of debt. As soon as you get out of debt, you're going to re-attract into your experience debt again, because the rule that you made with yourself in your unconscious mind was, I take action because of the presence of debt. You're finding motivation out of what you want to get rid of, which causes you to continue re-attracting and recreating in your life more of that thing that you want to get rid of. So either you're going nowhere fast or you're going back and forth. So these are the real conversations we need to be having, not I'm gonna buy clothes that don't fit me yet so that I can lose the weight to fit into them. We need to be having conversations about where our intentions are coming from and encouraging people to understand how the human mind works. So if you're struggling with this issue, I want you to take a really close look every time you have these feelings at where your motivation is coming from. If it is out of dissatisfaction for where you are now rather than what you can create that is better moving forward with that new reality, you've got to change your thoughts. I hope you guys loved this video. Please like and subscribe, comment if you have any questions or observations, and I will see you all next week for another video.